We're getting even closer and closer to the playoff season, and on tonight's show, Phil and Tony Esposito will hear from Bobby Orr. Why do I even need to tell you anything more? I mean, that should make you want to stay tuned right there. But there is a whole lot more coming up for you on this edition of In the Crease. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to In the Crease. We're nudging up against the postseason, the second season, if you will, and the National Hockey League. This is an exciting time as a lot of teams are vying. And tonight, we do have our revamped, if you will, predictions for the playoffs for you. As we'll go through the teams and give you some good stuff that you can kind of look at. And you know, this whole season, I said we were going to do vintage jerseys. Can you get any more vintage than this? This as, well, here, I know. They hate when I do this. This is, ta-da! This is the original, or one of the original, Boston Bruins sweaters. In fact, this is even a sweater. I don't think you can actually consider this a jersey. It's actually a knit sweater. And I don't want to say that I'm old enough to have been playing when they were back like this. But if you look kind of closely, you'll find some game blood on this, on this sweater somewhere. The good old Boston Bruins. You know, we should probably start with, there'll be a lot of theme running through this, is the Boston Bruins. One of the modern Boston Bruins who did exceptionally well was, of course, Jumbo Joe Thornton. He's no longer a Bruin. The Bruins shipped him off to the San Jose Sharks, and he has become really the face, the money market, the marquee player, if you will, for the Sharks. And it seems that on these shows lately, we've been notching or highlighting players that have reached milestones. Jumbo Joe has done it. Just recently, he scored his 1,000th assist. That's just the assists. 1,000 assists. And it's a rare feat. How rare? Well, we're going to go to our friends at Sportsnet Canada. Take a look at this.
Bufflin's pass broken up by Hurdle. Here's Joe Thornton now. He'll give it to Vlasic. Up ice to Pavelski, who scores! And Joe Thornton, the playmaker of his generation, has his 1,000th NHL assist.
Well, I would usually say, yeah, this is huge because you get the 2 points, but this is a milestone that's incredible. Joe Thornton, folks, becomes the 13th player in the history of this league to have 1,000 assists. And you could see him. He's exhausted. He breaks up the play. Look at the patience. He holds on to it, throws it over to Vlasic, up to Pavelski. Pavelski knows the situation, fires it, and it sneaks under the stick of Nikolai Ehlers. Joe Thornton, 1,000 assists.
Congratulations as we check the Pizza My Heart milestone tracker. He's crossed the threshold. A 1,000 assist career for the player that changed the San Jose Sharks forever the day he was traded in 2005. They've been pretty much an elite team ever since, and he's been the primary reason as he records his 1,000 assist on the 3-1 goal by Pavelski.
His 900th game as a Shark. He gets his 1,000th assist as an NHL player, and there it is. It seems apropos that Joe Pavelski be the one that puts the puck in the net. Way to go, Jumbo. It's done. It's over with. You did it.
Congratulations to Jumbo Joe. And you know, it's good that these players are hitting these different milestones. It's kind of nice to, you know, to acknowledge when they do. It speaks a lot for the game. It's good for the game, and it's good for these individual players as well. And if you really want to talk about milestones, how about the longest hockey game, professional hockey game played? This didn't happen here, okay? And there have been some thrillers certainly here, but this happened in Norway. And I'm not even going to attempt to do the Norway names for these players or what have you. But this game went into, are you ready for this? 8 overtimes. 8 overtimes. They played the 3-period and then 8 overtimes on top of that. The entire game took little over 8.5 hours to play. And they had to have a winner because it was a playoff game. 8.5 hours. Now, you know, if you're a hockey fan, I'm sorry. That's a legitimate excuse for calling off work the next day. The game went 8.5 hours. How can you? That's a valid excuse. I'm wondering maybe if the concession stands ran out of food. If not, those guys probably can take a vacation to Tahiti now because of all the capital that came flowing through in an 8.5 hour hockey game. Want to see how that game ended? Take a look.
Eikrem Haugen til Jensen, glimrende passning, Joakim Jensen, og så sitter den for Storhamar! Joakim Jensen avgjør kampen! Og for en kamp som gjør det!
Jeg måtte ta telling i 5. perioden, og har hatt krampe siden 5. perioden i begge låra, så jeg fikk noen fribytt i ny og ne for å restituere, men så jeg regner med at jeg ikke er den eneste som er sliten nå. Etter hvert så ble det til å holde humøret oppe og holde oss våkne egentlig, og det har gått både 20 pizzaer og noen kilo med pasta, så vi har spist 2-3 måltider under matchen. Det er morsomt at Gateligaen er på hockeykartet.
And that's how it all ended. Did it look like, maybe that was not the best? Hey, 8.5 hours of playing. Believe me when I tell you those guys were tired. There was a story going around that one of the goalies lost 12 pounds in that game alone. He was 12 pounds lighter at the end of the game than when he first started the game. I would believe that. It's pretty long. It was Sparta and the Dragons. Those were the two teams that were playing in there. So 8.5 hours. That's commendable. I like it. Speaking of commendable, do you think Jake Allen is really helpful that Marty Brodeur is with the St. Louis Blues? I think so too. Jake Allen was having a rough year. He had gotten into a slump, and boy, as soon as he did, the Blues went tanking with him. That's generally the modus operandi when goaltenders go into a slump. And they really didn't have a backup. Brian Elliott, they had shipped off, so where was he? You know what I mean? It was one of those things. Elliott's doing well in Calgary, but that's beside the point at this point. So Marty Brodeur comes in and says, look, I'll be glad to work with you. Jake Allen says, of course, the best goaltender to ever play the game. Of course, let's work together. And now all of a sudden, Jake Allen is on a tear, and the St. Louis Blues are right back in the playoff picture again. Yeah, that's the kind of story you like, when the guys can get a little help from the guys that have been there and done that, and that's worthwhile. Speaking of guys that have been there and done that and things that are all worthwhile, how about Phil and Tony Esposito? My God, there are so many stories going on about these guys, right? Remember when Tony Esposito would wear his black pants and then put a black net right between his legs so that if the puck went into the 5-hole, it was hit by the net? Yeah, he did that kind of stuff. Remember when Phil Esposito would score 79, 80 goals in a season? Not points, kids, goals in a season. Yeah, those days are pretty much gone. Now somebody hits 40 and everybody gets excited about it. Yeah. The Espositos have a very storied career, and they have a brand new book out. It's called The Esposito Brothers, and naturally they're going on a tour, and they're promoting their book, and they're telling some old tales. And I had to find this one for you. This one is pretty good. It's about a little joyride they went to when they were younger kids. So courtesy of NHL.com, here is Phil and Tony Esposito.
Tony and I were babysitting my sister. I think I was 15 maybe. Yeah. I wasn't. We didn't have a license yet. So Tony was 14, and she wouldn't stop crying. And we decided, I said, let's take her for a ride. So he said, well, let's go and cruise around. Maybe we'll go look and see some girls too. And we did. We cruised around, and my sister just screamed in the back seat. So we turned the radio up louder. Was it the Monarch, the old Monarch?
It was, well, basically it was, they wouldn't proceed with a Monarch. It was like a 56 Mercury.
Yeah.
Same
idea. It was
idea.
a Monarch then.
It was
the same car. I don't know why they had two names.
But it was really a good looking machine.
Oh, it was great. It was great looking.
So we were out looking for the girls. You know? And he was playing the big shot driving.
Oh, yeah, arm out the window, you know, and the radio blasting because she was crying.
We had it blasting anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
We were cool.
Yeah, and we finally, when we got home, my dad was home already with his half-time. They had gone to the movies, and they didn't like the movie, so they left early. And boy, when I saw his truck there, I knew, and I was going to put the car in the garage, and just as I do, and Tony gets out, grabs my sister, Terry, and brings her into the house.
I ran into the house.
And I drove into the garage, and just then I heard the door open, and it's my dad, and he says, "You dirty little son of a gun," you know, and I started running. He caught me, kicked me in the butt a couple of times, and then I came back, and my mother told us why she was crying so bad. We pinned her skin when we changed her diaper.
Phil changed the diaper.
I did. Tony wouldn't do
couldn't
that.
handle diapers.
He couldn't do that. I did that. I did. There's no doubt about it. But it was a harrowing experience because I used to take his half-time sometimes when he wasn't home and just drive up and down the laneway. But he never caught me doing that. But he caught me here.
You kind of get the impression you'd like to sit down at a nice adult place with adult libations and just chit-chat with these two guys for a while, right? And just hear some of the real stories, uncensored, unabashed, so to speak. It'd be a lot of fun. Phil and Tony Esposito, two of the game's great players. Speaking of a great player, how about Ben Bishop, huh? Ben Bishop was, in essence, the entire, well, maybe Steve Stamkos too, but he was the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they shipped him off to Los Angeles for the Kings, who just had Jonathan Quick come back. What are you doing when you have Jonathan Quick, probably right now the premier goalie in the league? Some might argue there with Holtby and whatever, but let's put he's up there. And then you bring in another number one contender like Ben Bishop. Well, I speculated on the Facebook page that this was probably a transition move, that something was going to bounce here one way or the other, and we'll find out in the off season, I'm sure. What does it do as far as the Kings are concerned for the playoffs? Well, folks, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's just a little too late and a little too little. So I don't think it's going to work out well for the Kings at all, and that'll throw us right in to our playoff thing. Now I'm going to cause the guys in the control room a whole lot of grief here, but here we go. Let's throw up the Eastern graphic first. This is the Eastern teams, and I got to tell you right now that in the Eastern Conference, your top three teams right now are the Washington Capitals, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Ladies and gentlemen, if any combination of those three teams were to play for the conference championship, I would be happy. I think all hockey fans would be happy. But you know what? It's probably not going to happen because of the ridiculous playoff schedule that the league does, concentrating on divisions and conferences instead of overall team greatness. There's a good chance that these teams will be knocked out before the championship round. In fact, it's a good chance the Caps and the Pens will play each other in either the first or second round, and then what? You've taken two of your best teams and you've forcefully eliminated one, making the championship game less than championship. You know, the old adage to the Bushido Code is when two tigers fight, one will die and one will leave the fight mortally wounded. Why would you have these teams meet early in the rounds? This makes absolutely no sense to me. Let's take a look at the West. When we ship over to the West, we have the exact same situation there, although it's not as drastic as the East. In the West, your three strongest teams right now are the Chicago Blackhawks. There is, don't doubt this, as long as there's a Bowman behind the bench and Stan is whispering in his ear, this team is going to be a contender. You have your San Jose Sharks and you have the Minnesota Wild. Same scenario here. Anyone or any combination of these three teams in the conference championship sets up a good conference championship. And once again, there's a good chance, especially with the Blackhawks and the Wild, that these teams will be eliminated before the championship round. That is a travesty, a total travesty. So you say, well, Fior, that's the way it's set up. How would you set it up? Okay, now I'm asking you guys in the control room, pump up the graphic that says league. Okay, what this does is the league is showing you the top 16 teams. Doesn't matter what conference you're in. It doesn't matter what division you're in or who has won the division. This is a chart that shows the top 16 point getters in the entire league. No division, no conference. These are the top 16 teams that should make your playoffs. And they should be bracketed off, 1 against 16, 2 against 15, and so forth, all the way down to you crunch the middle. That's the more equitable way to go. Yeah, but if you do it that way, there could be more teams from the West than there are in the East. So what? The following year, there may be more from the East than there are in the West. It'll all wash out. But now you're getting the top 16 teams. Take a look at the New York Rangers, who I know they are hated in the Pittsburgh area, but my God, they have more points than some of the division winners and may not make playoffs because, what? There's other teams stronger in their division and a team with lower point total is going to egg them out and edge in. This is retarded. Whoever thought of a system like this? This makes absolutely no sense. Well, we've got to play with it because that's what we're doing right now. So let's take a look now at the wild card division. Let's go into the West first, okay? So this is the graphic that's currently showing the wild card playoff for the West, okay? All right, here we go, kids. This is an update for me. I'm telling you right now the teams that are going to be gone. I don't care what points they show right now, these teams will not make the postseason. The Colorado Avalanche, the Arizona Coyotes, the Dallas Stars, the Vancouver Canucks, the Nashville Predators, that's right, the Nashville Predators, and the Winnipeg Jets. My prediction is that between now and the start of the second season, which is roughly when we're taping this, about a month away, those teams are going to be gone. Now, you're looking at that saying, well, Nashville's open to them. Forget about it. They're gone, okay? Those are the teams that are going to be gone, and the other teams are going to weasel into the don't give me any looks. You're looking at a guy that was 87% correct on predictions last year, okay? Find somebody better than 87% and I'll sit down and listen to them. Otherwise, All right, let's go over to the East. This is the Eastern Wild Card show up here. This is how it looks right now. We're about a month out from playoffs when we're taping this game. So even if you watch this, a couple of weeks down the road, the picture may have changed. So I will very easily tell you which teams are not going to make it from the East. Ready? Hold on to your hat. The New Jersey Devils, out. The Detroit Red Wings, out. The Carolina Hurricanes, out. The Buffalo Sabres, out. The Florida Panthers, out. The Philadelphia Flyers, out. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, out. Won't make it. Yep, that's my call. There you go. Like I said, 87% last year. Beat it, and then I'll sit and talk with you. Otherwise, take that to the bank. Those teams are not going to make it into the second season. They will be... one of them should squeak in because of this stupid playoff system. Let me throw in the little caveat there. If one of them should squeak in because of a divisional thing, they'll be gone in the first round. These teams are going nowhere. The teams I listened to you in the West and the East, they're not going anywhere. Don't look for any Cinderellas. Don't look for any surprises. There you go. When the playoffs actually start, we'll come in and we'll do a whole bracket thing and get that going off. So that's how your playoffs look, the update coming in. The Kings will manage to get into the playoffs, but I don't know how far they're going to go. That two-goalie system does not seem to be working very good there. Want to get a good laugh? Here you go. PK Subban, who was thrown out of Montreal. Did you see all this hype they put on? Oh, he had such an emotional return to the Forum when he came back. Those people were booing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how they manipulated the spin on these stories. Anyway, PK Subban, now with the Nashville Predators, said he would like to be commissioner for the NHL. What more can you say after that? There's probably 3 people who could make Gary Bettman look like he knows what he's doing as an NHL commissioner. PK Subban's one of them. I hope nobody gives this any serious consideration, especially just for the sake of being PC. You know, we've had a show that's really been filled with a lot of Boston Bruin things. Phil and Tony Esposito. We talked a little bit about Jumbo Joe, who started with the Bruins, of course, and then went on to be the marquee player for the Sharks. I guess it would be fitting, therefore, that we end tonight's program with another Boston Bruin, and that, of course, would be, in my opinion, probably the greatest player of all time. That's Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr, while we're taping this show, we are taping it on the day, okay, that Bobby Orr recorded his 100th point. Now, he was the first defenseman to ever score 100 points in a season, okay? Just in one season. In fact, the season that he did that, he went on to play more games and notch 20 more points and actually ended up that year with 120 points for a defenseman. Are you hearing me, okay? He revolutionized the game, and there was certainly none better at it. And recently, they honored the 100 top best hockey players of all time and had little ceremonies. And the fine folks from Sportsnet.com in Canada were able to catch up with Mr. Orr outside the festivities. And he had this to say about his playing days with the Bruins.
Bobby, when you came into the league 1966, it was 49 years old. Now it's 100, and you're being honored here tonight as one of the game's greatest players. What's it mean to you to be part of the celebration in this way?
I'm thrilled. I don't think, they ask about highlights, your career and so on, and this is definitely it. To be included in the 100 is amazing. And then upstairs, I'm giddy upstairs looking at the guys, the players that are coming in. And the amazing thing about our game is, like, in December, Milt Schmidt passed away, and Milt was 98. And Milty was born 2 years after the league started, and he was a player, coach, general manager, continued to stay in the game, support the game, and I think that's what makes our game so great. I was just with Mario and Wayne. They didn't leave the game. They're staying in the game to try to help make it even better, and I think that says a lot about the people within our game and the game itself. But if you look around at the teams, whether it's coaching, managing, scouting, there's so many players still involved, and they're staying involved to try to make it even better, and I think it's wonderful.
You were, as one of the greatest defensemen of all time, certainly revolutionized the game, made it better at that position. What do you think when you hear that?
Well, obviously, when you're complimented, it's very, very nice. It's just, I was a lucky guy. I played a style that defensemen weren't supposed to play, and I was owned by the Bruins from the time I was 14, and I played on their farm teams, their junior teams. They didn't ever ask me to change my style. So if they had, I think it would have been a lot more difficult for me. So I was very lucky in that I had a management team that let me play my way, the way I always played. And then I had teammates who, in time, we understood how I played and did a lot of backing up.
And hopefully didn't go outside.
And the photos with me in front of the net, I'm not supposed to be there. But no, I was lucky to be in the organization that let me still do my same thing. I mean, I think it would have been very difficult if I had to change.
Perfect.
You'll get all kind of arguments from people. In fact, Bobby Orr himself said he wasn't the greatest player. He thought it was Gordie Howe, but I totally disagree. I think Gordie Howe certainly was an excellent player, but I don't think anybody revolutionized the game and really changed the game around, probably for the better, than Bobby Orr. And I still say to this day, he the man when it comes to playing hockey. So there you have it. That's going to wrap up our show. And, before we skedaddle out of here, let me tell you that there are a lot of things happening over in Tinseltown. More than Ben Bishop going to the Kings that are rather exciting, heading into the summer blockbuster season, and that's why you want to keep it on this channel. Make sure you're watching the newest episode of Outtakes with Fiore. I'll give you some of the bigger movies that have hit the screen just before we hit that cusp where all the summer blockbusters come out. You'll want to check it out and make sure you're spending your money at the right box office when you go out on the weekends. Until then, hey, next time on the show, we'll probably be well into the second season. We'll talk more about playoffs, speculations, and also a lot of trades coming up for next year as well. Until then, remember that when it comes to hockey, if you're in the game, you're in the crease. Good night, everyone.